How's it going, everybody? It's Tyler Fisher with Outdoors in the Bluegrass, and as promised by popular demand, we're coming at you with a Baitcaster video. We're going to talk about what kind of Baitcaster you want to get, how to set it up, and how to cast it based upon the different type of baits that you're going to use. We're going to start out from a heavier bait to a medium-sized heavy bait to a super light bait, that 16-ounce rooster tail that we cast, and everybody's like, how you cast that thing so far with your Baitcaster? We're going to show you how. So stay tuned. Let's get to it, baby.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Dance, and you're watching Outdoors in the Bluegrass.
Outdoors in the Bluegrass is made possible by Academy Sports and Outdoors, for all for less. Lose, feel the difference. Strike King Lures, tie one on. Digital Effects Wraps, advertise the wrap way. HogHead Trailer Sales. We're all about trailers.
All right, so first let's talk about the type of reel. Now, we, along with many of you, have went out to Walmart and on Amazon and bought them $30 and $35 bait casters. They'll catch you some fish, they'll do you some good, but they're not up to that par you need to be to really get that smooth bait caster, non-bird nesting experience that you're looking for after a bit of practice. We utilize the Lew's Laser NG speed spools. Now, these are a good price point for everybody that's in our type of income. I mean, for a rod and reel combo, you're talking $99, and you can get the reel well under the $80 mark. I mean, it's worth spending that little bit of more money to get a nice quality reel that's within your price budget, that's going to do what you want it to do. And that does have an impact on how you're going to cast and how well your performance is going to be and how far you're going to cast. Our setups today have 12-pound test Berkley trilene on them. That's what we use on all of our bass rods. We've talked about that before. So let's start talking about how you want to set these things up to get your optimal casting performance. All right, now that we've talked about the type of bait caster and how well it plays into your performance and optimal ability to make a cast, let's talk about setting that thing up. The first thing you want to do is look at your spool tension. There's an adjustment right here on the side that's going to be able to adjust your spool tension prior to your cast. This is how tight the spool is before you even make a cast, okay? Now, you're going to want to adjust this based upon your bait's weight. So get the bait on that you want to be able to cast utilizing this current setup. Put your thumb on the spool and release the trigger, keeping your thumb on the spool so that it doesn't go. Gently pull your thumb off that spool and let that bait start taking line. If it's taking it way too fast, you want to go ahead and tighten it up. Tighten it up, and the optimal setting is that the bait is gradually dropping, gradually pulling line off your spool. When you've got that, you're all dialed in, and we'll move on to that next setting that makes all the difference in the world. All right, you got your first step taken care of. You've got your spool tension set up just right. You're on your way to start using the bait caster and not being mad about it. Now, there's all kinds of braking systems on different types of bait casting reels, but the base concept is a centrifugal force braking system that has a dial on the side that lets you adjust how much that goes into effect. You want it max or min. Now, I suggest starting out at about the halfway point and start making some casts. If you start bird nesting, tighten it up a little bit. Now, what this does, if anybody understands centrifugal force, if you ever watch The Big Bang Theory in that episode where Leonard's trying to tell Penny about centrifugal force or centrifugal, the opposite of it, I don't know, I'm not a physicist. But basically what happens is if you ever played that little game with the box and the two marbles in it when you were little, and you'd spin it real fast and the balls would go to the end of it, and the trick was how do you get the balls in both ends? Well, that's how you do it. You use centrifugal force. That's how these work. Basically, as that spool spins, whether it be a spring setup or a magnet setup, it forces those brakes to go based upon the spinning of that reel, centrifugal force, and it slows down the spool as the bait is being cast. So you want to get that set up just right. If you're bird nesting, tighten it up a little bit. And as you continue to get better in practice, you're going to loosen that up, I promise. But that's going to get you to your next step of making the perfect cast with your new bait caster. All right, your bait caster's all set up. You got the bait caster you want, you got the bait tied on you want, your spool tension set up, and now you've got your wonderful centrifugal brake system set in place. Some have dual centrifugal brake systems, so you might have to work on that. Not a huge fan, but they work really well if you know how to set them up. Now we're going to work into your cast. I'm telling you, we use these heavy baits, heavier crankbaits and so forth, and your heavier spinner baits. It's a little bit easier to make a cast, to be quite honest with you, without making the bird nest, because it's just a real light cast. You're not putting a whole lot of whip into it, and the bait is actually taking it. And once the bait hits the water, you put your thumb on that spool so that the spool doesn't keep spinning and cause you that bird nest that everybody hates so much, or backlash as many call it. So depending on your bait is how you're also going to determine your cast. You'll see when I'm casting a heavier bait or a medium-sized bait, I'm putting a little bit more whip in it with the medium heavy bait than I am with the larger bait, because it needs a little bit more to go. And that also is going to go in line with the tuning you do on your tension of the spool and your centrifugal brake. But when you get to them really light baits that everyone just absolutely goes bonkers over, like how are you casting a 16-ounce rooster tail with the Baitcaster all the way across the river? Well, when you hear me cast that thing, you hear that rod go whoosh. I mean, we whip the living daylights out of it to get it across there, but the Lew's Laser MG speed spool, the setup of our spool tension, the setup of our centrifugal force, lots and lots of practice and patience and additional line from Berkley, thank you very much, allows us to be able to do that. And you put a lot more into the whip and the cast, utilizing that practice and the perfect setup. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes patience, but you can get there. We're prime examples. We're not pro fishermen. We fish a lot, but we're not pro fishermen. But we consistently can whip those small 16-ounce, sometimes 32nd-ounce baits across that river, across that lake, off that boat without having a single problem, and it just takes time and practice. You can get to it. Go grab you a nice rod and reel, get you a Laser MG speed spool combo for under $100, tie you on a bait, set it up like the way we said to set it up, start casting, and go catch you some fish, baby. And you're going to do it because you learned it from Outdoors in the Bluegrass.